Hello and welcome to the DDS Foundation Open Membership Call on July 25th, 2019. My name is Meg Duncan and I am a Marketing Specialist at Object Management Group. In just a few minutes, I will be turning over the webinar to Lynn Canavan, who's the Vice President of Marketing for DDS Foundation, who will lead the presentation today. But before that, I want to introduce a few housekeeping notes. During the webinar, we'll have the audience on mute. However, you may submit a written question using the question tab at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A period at the end of the presentation. There are also a few polls that will take place during the webinar. We ask you to fill them out to get an understanding of your interest and role working with DDS. There'll be a short survey after the call as well. Thank you for joining us on this call. We appreciate you taking the time to join us and learn more about the DDS Foundation, its missions and goals. And at this time, I'd like to hand the controls over to Lynn Canavan.
Thank you, Meg. Hi, as Meg said, that I am Lynn Canavan with RTI, and I serve as Vice President of Marketing for the DDS Foundation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, and welcome to the first membership call. So today's call is for us to provide you with a short update on what we've been doing so that you can determine where you want to engage in this organization. And it's also an opportunity for the leadership of the DDS Foundation to hear from you directly on what your priorities are. As Meg said, there's an opportunity to ask questions at the end through the chat board, and we'll do our best to answer them, and we might have to get back to you on a couple of those. In addition, there's going to be a short survey that follows this, so thank you in advance for taking a couple of minutes to complete it. Again, that gives us additional information on where we may need to prioritize. So as we get started, I just wanted to reflect for a moment on the past weekend. I was a little bit awestruck by the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. You know, it's staggering to think that the technology that was used for that mission is less than that which is in my telephone. I mean, if you think about that, my cell phone today has much more computing power than that mission had. What also struck me in just listening to it and understanding what went into that mission was that there was an estimated 400,000 people who worked on that mission over the course of the 8 years from the time that JFK said we're going to do this to the time that it actually launched. 400,000 people came together in various roles and assortment things to collaborate and get it done. So when I think about the DDS Foundation, I think of it as our own personal moonshot. You know, granted, it's on a much smaller scale, but it's still ambitious. We are working together on this shared mission to collaborate to do something that we think can change the industry through the widespread use of DDS. And we know that, and you know, that DDS enables the complex operations that will propel industry forward. You know, it's used today actually by Kennedy Space Center in launching rockets. But the goal of this organization is to expand those use cases, to establish certifications, to establish the interoperability that will be necessary to make the next generation of distributed systems work as intended and designed. So with that said, I did want to talk about the official mission of the DDS Foundation. And that is, you know, I'm not going to read this slide, and you will have access to these slides after this call. But basically, we are working together to promote the adoption, the interoperability, the success of the DDS standard to the wider community. And that involves the ecosystem. It involves helping to evaluate some of the standards, to work in collaboration with the DDS SIG, the special interest group, as they develop the technologies and so forth, looking at industry-specific data models and industry-specific adoption of DDS. So again, that's our mission statement. And also we want to make sure that we build libraries. We want to make it more useful to you, to your ecosystems, to help promote it and to grow the DDS standard. I did want to share that there is a DDS Foundation Wiki. So we also have a website, which is external, but we also have the Wiki, which is a little bit more internal. And so that's the link to it. Please look at it. Please use it. It's going to grow. There's some base information there. That's where we're going to be putting our use cases. That's where we're going to be putting the libraries. There is information that is going to be used there. So we wanted to make you aware that it exists and encourage you to check it out and to bookmark it and to add to it as well. So with that said, just a quick review of what the charter looks like. So this is a group that is formed under the Object Management Group. And again, we work in parallel with the special interest group, so the DDS SIG, which drives the standard itself and makes advances in the standard and the technologies and so forth. And under the foundation, there are some positions for the different focus areas that we have. And I wanted to just introduce the leadership of the DDS Foundation in its inaugural year. So Matt Grubbis from GE Healthcare is the VP of Applications. He is unfortunately not able to join us on this call, but you know, his contact information, I believe, is in the wiki. And Nick Stavros is the VP of Technology. He is traveling internationally, was going to try and dial in. Nick, are you there? Okay, not yet. He was off the grid a little bit. But Chip Downing is on the call, and he is the VP of Ecosystem. Chip, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. This is Chip Downing from Real-Time Innovations. Can you folks hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, I'm from Real-Time Innovations. I'm the Senior Director of Market Development for Aerospace and Defense at Real-Time Innovations, based out of our Sunnyvale, California office.
Great. And Laura Clark is on from Twin Oaks. Laura?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So hello, I'm Laura Clark from Twin Oaks Computing. I'm the VP of Communications for the DDS Foundation, and I've been Director of Marketing at Twin Oaks Computing since 2011. I'm excited to help grow the awareness of the data distribution standard across the globe.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And as I previously introduced myself, so again, I work with at RTI along with Chip. Let me introduce you to, or let Adam introduce himself. Adam, do you want to go ahead? Adam, we're not hearing you if you are speaking. Okay, I'm not hearing Adam, so I'm going to introduce him on his behalf. Sorry, Adam. Hopefully, we can get your sound back on later. Adam is the Director of Interoperability, and he's with OCI, and he's again just focusing on how we have focusing on that area, that particular area, which has additional emphasis for this organization. Okay. All right. So. Let's learn a little bit about you. I'm going to stop and do a polling question. We want to understand the people that are on this call. So if you don't mind, this is going to just take a 1 second, which is basically, who are you? So the poll is open, and there you go. While we're spending a minute to have that happen, just wanted to kind of share some other fun facts about DDS, which probably you all know because you're all working with it. But there are some really interesting use cases that are out there. Some of these are captured on the existing website, and some will be elaborated on a little bit more. We already talked about NASA, but there's also DDS drives some of the world's most powerful telescopes. So earlier this year, there was in Chile, there was the huge telescopes that are used down there for the total eclipse. Those are powered by DDS. DDS transfers all that information to correct for the curvature of the data as it comes in, from outer space. It's used in Nice, in France, to help run the parking services there. So it's used in smart cities. It's also used on the trading floor, so in financial services and in healthcare and other areas as well. Okay, so looking at the poll, I think we can close out that poll. So several researchers on the call and some other developers. Okay, so that's a little bit about you. Oops, I am just going to make sure that I am going back to the webinar. Sorry about that. I thought I had closed out everything. Let's go back to let's go back to the polling question. Okay, so next thing, the DDS Foundation, the committee charters. So the first charter is the application charter, and this one is, again, Matt is not on the call, so I'm going to go ahead and read his application, or what the application wants to do. And again, this is where we want to come together to collaborate with the different verticals, the different challenges, and so forth, to look at how we are going to shape the future of DDS through the different application use cases. And that means applying the technology to the applications, showing where it's the correct technology and where it's not the correct technology. Helping to look at the standards to make sure that there is input to the standards from the user community. Looking for some quick start environments, and also promoting the plug and play integration and capabilities, and enhancing the ecosystem with the solution partners. So again, that's collaboration across the ecosystem. There is a lot on this list, and so what we want to do is focus it down. And so Matt has come up with 3 short-term focus areas. We're sharing these because we want those of you on the call to decide, if this is of interest, where you would like to engage. And his first area of focus is the real-world applications, publishing it on the DDS Foundation website, the real-world examples. There are some that are there, as I mentioned, but we want to grow that library. Another important area is to compare and contrast DDS to other middleware, other types of messaging technologies, and also to point to additional tool libraries. So sort of do that analysis and create those libraries and help to promote those and get those out there. Okay, so that's the applications area. Next is the communications charter. So I'm going to ask Laura to go ahead and cover this area.
Okay, so the communications charter is to direct and manage the external communications about the DDS Foundation through emails and LinkedIn and things like that. Enhance the reputation and brand positioning of the DDS Foundation, to grow DDS awareness and interest within the broader user community, media, and analysts, to act as an ambassador for the organization, and to educate others about the Foundation's plans and activities. So the short-term focus for communications will, some of what I'll be doing is take and publish the DDS Foundation leadership meeting notes, and you can find those on the wiki. To work with the OMG and DDSF leadership to create a mailing list. Hopefully you guys are all on that, and to publicize the DDS Foundation activities and events. And then I would ask you guys to look at our LinkedIn page. I'll be managing and updating that, so please go there and join our group.
And thanks, Laura. Great job with that LinkedIn page. Please go ahead and take a look at it and start engaging on that, those of you that are on the call. Okay, so next is ecosystem. Chip, please, if you'd like to cover this.
Yes, can you hear me, Lynn?
Yes, you're good.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, so this is Chip Downing. So the ecosystem is really around to drive adjacent standards awareness for aligning with and adopting with DDS. It's also to expand our opportunities for connected applications to take advantage of DDS capabilities. Also to develop a library of broad industry use cases using DDS in data-centric applications. Additionally, we're going to focus on ensuring interoperability and compliance with complementary technologies and standards. Also create conformance testing platforms for interoperability and API portability, data models, and security. And then create an authority to grant conformance certificates for products that pass the testing. And then finally, recruit new members and encourage existing members to become active proponents of DDS. On the short term, we're just going to create a value proposition for DDS, and this is just to be a PowerPoint deck for the DDS Foundation ecosystem, and sign up at least one ecosystem partner. Now, we're really, my focus right now is looking at different standards and trying to get alignment with these different standards. And this is a new activity for almost everyone to do the standards alignment and do a formal alignment with multiple standards. So this will be a bit of a challenge, but people seem to have a pretty good feeling about moving forward with this. And that's it. Over to you, Lynn.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so the next area is marketing, and that is what I focus on. And again, we want to build, DDS was introduced 15 years ago. The original specification version 1.0 was released 15 years ago, and in that time, lots of people have been using it. Several thousand, instances of DDS being used. But let's see how we can scale that to hundreds of thousands. So the objective of the marketing charter is really to bring the DDS standard to its full potential by helping to up the level of interest, excitement, and engagement in the standard. So we are looking at doing some public events. We'll be talking about Nashville at the end of this call, how we differentiate DDS against other standards. Again, building those libraries that we talked about so that people have the tools, the resources, the information that they need as they evaluate and decide where they're going to be using it. And teaming closely with Laura on the communications end to help build the awareness and interest. And also making the DDS website run by OMG sort of the go-to thing. So that's the DDS Foundation site. And to collaborate, again, with the other organizers in that. Over the next, for the short term, the focus is on building this, helping to build the foundation so that we have lots of people. We're not going to get the 400,000 people that NASA had, but we want to make sure that we have a robust community and a diverse community so that we have end users, we have the creators and the vendors of DDS, the researchers, so that we have a collaborative community. We have the right people who are engaged in this to help grow it, and also to help rebrand the website with the DDS Foundation, look and feel. So actually, if you go down to the original OMG DDS website, we did change it to the Foundation look and feel. There's more work to be done, but we got started on that. So again, I want everybody to notice the website. Please check that out as well. So the wiki is for the membership to use, and some materials. The Foundation organization website is more of a general, broader community. So that's the focus on marketing. We're going to switch it over to technology and interoperability. So Adam, I know, is on the line, and I believe Nick is in the audience, if we can unmute him somehow. Anyways, Adam, do you want to go first on this? Okay, so Adam is still on mute.
So I believe Nick is on. I want to give him a chance.
Awesome. Nick, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm sitting in Austria, and it's 97 degrees while I'm bicycling, so my brain might be a little fried. But so we want to develop testing for interoperability, API portability, data models, and security. The data models are where I think the user communities need to come together to share data models as an adjunct to the standards. So the standards are for the vendors and the interoperability of the products, the DDS products operate. But if we move towards data models, we're going to hopefully get to the point where the community can interoperate better. So, for example, there might be medical device data, it might be auto sensors for LiDAR sensor. There may be some for the Navy. We've already started some of those being standardized. Develop, import, catalog industry relevant data models. Again, this is back to the data models. They are readily usable with DDS with examples. So I want to use the medical device data models. How do I do that? Are there any examples? Starting out with like a hello world, moving on to something more complicated than hello world, and showing people how to interoperate. That's important from an integration perspective. If you can integrate, traditionally in computer science and computer products, there's an attitude of one ring to rule them all. So everybody's trying to knock everybody else out of business. But that doesn't work. So for example, one medical device might have been by a vendor, another one might have been produced by a vendor in Canada, another one by a vendor in the US. They all pick different DDS vendors. Our goal is not to make you switch between DDS vendors to interoperate. Your device should be able to publish and subscribe to topics produced by other vendors, and that's why this is so important. So this is to, and when appropriate, if we find shortcomings in that interoperability or those data models, or they need something extra, we'll go back and fix the data models. So these are verticals. What I'm talking about are verticals. If you're part of the health industry, you're vertical. The DDS vendors, the existing set of standards, are the horizontal. Develop companion specification for DDS mapping of the above data models. So how do I map these, the data types that need to be there? Is there a standard way of doing it, or do we gap in the way we do data? One of mine is multiple length entries, LEs, which like we have integers of any size, strings of any size, and those we have strings, but we don't have things. So those are things that we would worry about. JSON, can I communicate JSON? Can I communicate through XSDs? So that's where the above data models come in. Next.
Okay, so short-term focus on interoperability. I think, Adam, if you want to talk about this.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get a chance to introduce myself before because of a distributed computing problem. So I'll introduce myself real quick here. My name's Adam Mitz. I'm a principal software engineer at Object Computing Incorporated, known as OCI, where I primarily work on OpenDDS and other DDS-related things. And we're doing DDS to solve in robust and performant ways problems in distributed computing. And GoToWebinar has one of those problems because it tells me I'm muted even though I'm not muted, and it can't keep that state correct. Right. So if GoToWebinar developers knew about DDS and knew what a good solution it is to their distributed computing problems, then that mix-up wouldn't have happened. So not to deflect the blame there, but I'll just give that little background and plug. But you're here already, so you know how good DDS is. Our short-term focus on interoperability is to kind of add more public resources, in particular, pages that we can see on DDS Foundation available to the public, describing how different implementations of DDS can work together. And we're seeking, and we will post, once we have them, user stories of real-world interoperability scenarios, because we know this actually works in practice, right? It's not just well, in theory, this product will communicate with that product. It actually does work, and it's worked in demos in the lab and in the field in production. We want to make sure everyone is aware of those success stories.
Okay, awesome.
I would like to add that it's not so much adding, that these things don't exist. They exist. We have not documented them yet, or documented them satisfactorily yet. So there are things for NASA, there are things for medical records, there are things for a lot of these things. We just don't have them documented in the wiki yet.
Great. So Nick, do you want to talk about the short-term focus technology goals? And we covered the broader scope now, the short-term.
So I would like to create an outline, more like a textbook on how to use DDS. You take some of these use cases and walk people through, download the software, step through debuggers, set breakpoints. How do I use these things? How do I apply them to my application? We have a Shapes demo. There are the various vendors have different examples you can download, but it's not really a textbook. And we really need to create more of a textbook in order to be competitive with MQ and some of the other things. And then the second step is to reach out to universities. This is important because if we want people to start adopting it, we need to be able to start creating students who come out of university ready to go and start, reach for DDS as a way of solving their particular problems. Document real-world use cases. That's what Adam was alluding to. We have the real world. We're already in the real world. We just need to document them. That's what I was trying to clarify before, was getting those things put into the wiki so that you can come in and say, hey, I'm in the medical field, or I'm in the automobile field, or I'm in the whatever field you're in. Who's using it? How do they using it? And I can get to that. And then try to establish DDS as a Dido ecosystem. So Dido is the generic term that we are using in OMG, one of the generic terms we're using in OMG for describing blockchain technologies. The reason we use Dido is because it's a distributed immutable data object, which DDS can perform and do, as well as other things. But blockchain is a particular technology. Bitcoin is a particular technology that uses blockchain technology. So we have a more abstract way of referring to it. So another thing that with DDS and the Dido ecosystem would be the Interplanetary File System, IPFS, is another way of doing Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, or those types of things. So DDS, I think, has a real important place to play here in the crypto world, the blockchain world, because we are already encrypting. We have secure communications between the members, participants in a DDS network. We already talk about data. We can make sure that you can set up your QoS to modify the data, and so there's only one copy, or you can keep a history to say, nope, you can never delete the old copies. All you can do is add new copies to it. So that's part of the blockchain world, and that's to try to establish DDS as a principal component of where we want to go with blockchain.
Okay, thanks very much.
A standards-based way of doing it, because blockchain is not standards. And with that, I have to go. So I will get a report when this is all done. Thank you.
Stay hydrated, Nick. Take care.
I will.
Thank you. Okay, so next we just have a quick polling question, which is, of these different areas, we are trying to determine where the, where you're most interested. And so we have a short poll, just, if you want to understand where you would like to engage. So we'll take just a couple of seconds for you to answer that. Okay. Thanks. I can see that 83%, 85% of you have voted. So excellent. Thank you for being engaged in this. Okay. Awesome. I think we are going to close out that poll, and just a quick look. It looks like ecosystem has gotten the highest response, which is awesome. Applications, interoperability, technology, all great areas, and lots to do, as you've heard. So thank you again for taking the poll. Okay, so next, just a quick reminder, the next object management group meeting is going to be in Nashville in September, the third week in September. Third or fourth, I guess that's the third week. Anyways, September 23rd, which is a Monday evening, we have a DDS meet and greet from 5 to 7 p.m. This is an open event to the public. It's free. It's going to be research oriented, so we've reached out and have been talking to universities. We're going to have some posters there, a quick little panel, but basically it's just it's an informal versus a more formal program. I hope you can join us. Please do register online. You can see the URL here, but if you go to the OMG website, you will see information for that too. And we do have a quick polling question. Are you going to be there? We'd love to see you. So just quickly answer this one. We'll get an idea for attendance, and as we start to think about how we communicate and plan and so forth, it's not feasible to have everything face-to-face, although it's great when we can be face-to-face. But we will do some more online outreach and collaboration types of things. Okay. All right. And again, we have a good poll, so I think we're going to be think we can close this one out. Okay, thanks very much for answering that one. And just finally, we're gonna, not finally, this is now we get to the good stuff, which is hearing from you. So we're gonna open it up for question and answer. Basically, we're gonna do this not by opening up the lines, given the distributed computing problem that Adam had highlighted. We are gonna do this all through the modules. So if you look at your, at this GoToWebinar, you will see a place for questions. So please go ahead and do that, and we will start to open it up. I think Meg is going to facilitate this. So Meg, I'm going to, we can leave the, do I want to transfer it back to you or just leave as is?
No, I think you can leave it up there. I just jumped on the line here. So, and it looks like our first question is for Adam. So I'll give you a moment to prepare, Adam, to get yourself unmuted.
I think I'm ready.
Okay, good. As a new member, Durham Networks, they need interoperability tests. Can you help us test interoperability with existing members? Is there any documented guide for interoperability tests or any existing test scenarios that are available?
Yeah, thanks for your question. We do have some resources for that. And I guess I'll kind of, I don't know, I think the division between what the DDS Foundation is doing and what the DDS SIG within OMG is doing is not completely distinct. There's a lot of overlap here. There are publicly available GitHub repositories that the DDS SIG manages that have resources for testing. And so we can definitely be in touch after this. I will take down your email addresses, which I think the webinar software will let me see if it cooperates. And
yeah, and I can send you the email address of the person who asked the question, Adam, so you can follow up offline too.
Yep, so those are good resources, and there's mailing lists that the OMG maintains to communicate with everyone who's doing DDS implementation.
Great, thank you very much. And then we have another question, which is, are there plans to build a library of DDS materials, technical papers, webinars, et cetera?
So I'll take that. This is Lynn, and just from yes, the answer is yes, and we definitely would like to use this as an open request to those of you who are creating those materials directly. Please send them to us so that we can have one. We want to become the place to find information on DDS, and so the answer is yes. We have plans to build multiple libraries for different things: technical papers, use case library, just some general information and so forth. So again, we are getting started and would love some assistance with that.
Okay, that is terrific. I'm looking to see if there are any further questions from the audience. Perhaps you have covered the material so well that there are no questions at the moment, but feel free to reach out. We have the LinkedIn page. We have the DDS Foundation website. You can contact us that way if you do have any questions that arise after the webinar. Do you have any final comments, Lynn, or any of the other Foundation leaders?
I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this. If you're listening to it on replay, thank you for taking the time to do so. Hopefully we will see some of you and most of you in Nashville, but definitely would love to see you start getting engaged in those areas. So what you'll get after this is a short survey that will indicate where you'd like us to prioritize and so forth. So if on this poll you've indicated that you are interested in working with the ecosystems, Chip would be delighted to work with you on that as you progress those objectives. And same with the technology, the interoperability, the applications, and so forth. So please, get engaged, reach out. We will have the individual leaders of those areas. We'll be starting separate calls, separate work streams, and so forth. And so definitely want to thank you in advance for getting involved in those areas. And again, as we look to this little mini moonshot that we have, I think it's going to be looking back in a couple of years, it will be great to look at this point as the starting point for where it really started to take off, become interoperable, so that we can utilize the strength of DDS so that there isn't alternative technologies that are being focused on, where DDS actually already fits the bill. So, yeah. Thank you.
In that case, if there are, thank you, Lynn, and thank you to all the DDS leadership who joined us today, and thank you to the audience for taking the time to join us. Just a reminder again about the survey that will be coming at the end of the webinar or in the email after the webinar. We would appreciate your input. So thank you very much for attending and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.